Oh, we're live. Hello and welcome to this special webinar. No, not webinar. It's what is it? We're having a conversation. It's not a webinar. It could be a webinar, but it's not a webinar. So today we're talking, sorry, I did a webinars last week. That's why I've got webinar in my brain. Anyway, we're talking today about the power of yoga to enhance your voice. And today I am very pleased to be joined by Rosie Secker. Is that how you pronounce your surname?
Yes, yep, it is.
Perfect. Okay. And Rosie is, well, I might let you introduce yourself, but briefly, you are a singing teacher, you're a
Yeah,
singer, and you're a yoga teacher.
yeah, that's exactly right. So primarily, I started off as a singer, became a singing teacher alongside performing, and then found yoga and became a yoga teacher as well. And now it's all just joined together, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And so you've got your business called Vox Yoga. That's the name of your business. And so I've been doing yoga for a while, a long time, and I'm not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. I still can't do a handstand or anything like that, but I really enjoy it. And I went to one of your classes, I think in lockdown, and it was I mean, I've literally done classes around the world. I've done thousands of classes around the world over the years. And your class was the first class I'd ever sang something while doing various postures. So I thought it was just really, really fascinating. And obviously, knowing you've got the singing background, although we're really talking primarily today for speakers, because that's my client base more now, but essentially the voice is the voice, whether we're speaking or we're singing. But one of the things for me that I love about yoga, which I think that other forms of exercise we don't get this from, in my opinion at least, is it's really a mind, body, spirit practice. And for me, the voice is a mind, body, spirit instrument. We are our body, which is our voice. We are the mind drives our voice as well. Like we know that when we feel anxious, it affects our voice. When we feel sad, it affects our voice. And also the sort of spirit. I think that's, for me, the voice is giving sound to our heart and our soul. So there's a real kind of spirit. And so I feel like it's the perfect practice to complement working with your voice. But before we get into that, so you mentioned, obviously you started, so were you a singer first? What came first?
Yeah.
You were a singer first.
Yes, I went to Birmingham Conservatoire, trained in opera, always wanted to sing contemporary though.
Yeah.
Went and did my master's at drama school, so I did a lot of speech work there as well. And then it was that thing of, graduating, doing little bits of performing work here and there, and then got one day a week teaching at a school and just became fascinated in the voice science and working with different voices and different singers. So then it just started to kind of, my work transitioned to become more teaching based. But I still perform. I suppose it's probably about 10%, I reckon, of my work.
Yes. Yes. And so where did yoga come in for you? Were you always doing yoga, or was it something you thought, oh, I need something to support me as a singer? Or how did you get into that?
Yeah, it's so funny. And I'm very, very open about my introduction to yoga as well. But I tried a class when I was about 19, 20, so in the middle of my undergrad degree, and I thought, okay, I need to get fit, I need to get moving, I just need to do something. And I went to yoga and I just found it so boring. And I was like, oh, so I started going to Pilates and spin class, and that was what I liked. And I was like, oh, yeah, it was all right. Yoga was okay. And so I didn't come back to it until I was about 25. And I came back to it at a time when I was extremely busy, quite stressed. I was driving loads, going in between. I was doing big workshops in schools for kids, and it was all kind of big energy. And then I'd sprint, eat lunch in the car, drive somewhere else, and it was just so hectic, working 6 days a week. And I thought, I just need something to have as physical movement, but also just to de-stress a little bit. And I thought, oh, I'm going to try yoga. Went to Brighton Yoga Festival and did some free classes, and I was like, oh, I'm going to try some YouTube, and then realized there was a beautiful studio around the corner from my old house. So I just started to build my practice. And so I truly believe that yoga comes to you at the right time. Like, it's not right for everyone. If you need it, it's there, and it can have different benefits for everyone. So yeah, I honestly didn't enjoy it at first. And now I love it.
It's so interesting because I think I mentioned to you before, like when I very first started doing it, I think I was only doing it because I wanted more of the stretching part of it. And because I'd be sitting at a desk all day or sitting down all day. And
Yeah.
I remember being in Shavasana thinking, when is this going to end? I really need to get to the supermarket. Why are we all sitting here for like 10 minutes? I was bored. I was fidgeting. And now I look forward. In fact, that's my favorite part, actually. Like lying
Yeah.
down, being in my own zone.
Yeah. And
So
that's, it's such a big part of it, I think, as well.
it is. And I've been told, and I'm sure you can, it's actually the most important part of yoga because a lot of people often want to rush off before they do that sort of shavasana. But I've been told it's the part of the class that really kind of solidifies all the other aspects of what you do.
Yeah, and it gives it a chance to kind of, although we're supposed to be switching off, like often just reflect on how you're feeling and kind of know that you've just spent however long, whether it's 30 minutes or 75 minutes for yourself. And,
Yeah.
we get the thing I like most about yoga is how it gets you into a sort of, I'd say, energy kind of. It doesn't have to be a meditative state, but it changes your energy in a way that you can kind of decide. You can use it to energize, you can use it to calm, and you have that kind of time at the end where you can just let that energy just wash over you, really. It kind of settles everything before you go out into the world again.
Absolutely. And I know for me, it's one of the few sort of forms of, I use the word exercise loosely, but it's one of the few forms of exercise I think that you can literally do in whatever sort of state you're in, emotionally, almost to some extent physically, because you can modify things. I think I mentioned to you when I was really jet lagged, whenever I go somewhere and I'm really jet lagged, I'll usually go and find a yoga studio because I find it really helpful in helping me sleep and helping me acclimatize. So I found it really beneficial when I've gone through really emotional times in my life, really stressful times. I find it very, very therapeutic. So for me, it's probably more of a sort of therapy actually than a form of exercise, but then it happens to have that benefit as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the joy of yoga is there's so many different types of yoga, and it can be what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can kind of assess if there's a quick flow, and you need to slow it down. You can do the exact same, if it's a physical practice, exact same physical flow, but you just move slower with your breath. If you're feeling unenergized, you can do the same thing, but you can go quicker and have different, variations and modifications. And you just really, take what you need. And it's always making it work for you, your body, but also on that day and in that moment, I think is very important as well.
Absolutely. So on this topic then, so there would be people, I think yoga's become more popular for sure over the last probably 10 years. I mean, I haven't been back in the country for 10 years, but certainly we're living in Australia. It was very popular in Australia. So there would be people that have probably tried it or maybe regularly go, and then there'd be people that think, no, that's not for me. So are you able to simply explain how you would describe yoga and maybe what it is and what it isn't?
Yeah, and that's
I think
such a hard question.
I
And I
know,
think everyone would have different answers to that
I
as well.
know. Well,
But
the
yeah,
reason I want to sort of start with this is because I think there's a lot of preconceptions about yoga.
yes,
And for people that have
100%.
never done it, I think they think you just sit in a circle and hum, and it's all just very sort of, almost like you don't really sort of do anything. And so I think sometimes people are maybe afraid to go and try it, and perhaps they would really love
Yeah,
it if they did go.
yeah, definitely. And yoga essentially just means union, that union of, like you said, body, spirit, mind. I always put breath in there as well, because it's so much of it has a focus of the breath, which is why I think it's fantastic for voice users.
Yeah.
So yoga, our Western view is very different to kind of in the East where it originated, and there are so many different types of yoga because it originated with just some simple seated postures that were used for meditation. However, then asana, the physical postures, were developed, and it can be a very physical practice. So it really does depend on what kind of yoga and what type of class you go to. So you could go to one of those Kundalini yoga classes, which I once saw a snippet of on the class timetable, and I thought that does not sound like something I want to do. And it was all chanting and repetitive things. And I'm not the most spiritual person.
Right.
And I thought, no, that's not for me. However, there was one week, it was the only class I could attend, and I wanted to do some yoga. So I went, and it was weird, but I felt so good after it. I felt amazing. I couldn't believe it. And it worked for me, but different classes are very different. So you might have that very slow breath work, or you might have a fast physical flow where you are moving the body as well. So I think if someone is going to try yoga, it is really looking at the type of class. Don't just turn up to any class. Look at the description, because there are different types. There's Ashtanga yoga, where it follows the exact same sequence every time. Vinyasa, which includes, the planks and up dog, down dog, and a bit more yet what we might call power yoga.
Yeah.
Hatha yoga, which is much slower. Yin yoga, where we hold postures for a lot longer. So that's the most long-winded answer to what is yoga, but I think it can be whatever you want it to be. And it's really funny that you said at the beginning, I don't know if I'm very good at yoga, I don't know if I can do a handstand, but it's your personal practice, because I was never ever a flexible person. And it's really funny, the more yoga I do, there's just some parts of my body that I just know are not as flexible as other parts. And I think, am I ever going to be able to feel like I can do that, like the textbook posture? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter, because I'm still getting the benefits of it for my body. So I think the good thing about yoga is you can take what you want from it. If you want to have some breath work, or pranayama as we call it, with some simple stretches, that's what you can use. And if you want to use it as an exercise program, you want to build up a sweat, then you can. But it's just knowing that it is that union of, the body, mind, breath, and spirit, I suppose.
Yes. And perhaps that's what it is, whereas I think other forms of exercise, not that you can't access those 4 points, but the focus for me, so I also go to the gym, and for me, it's very much body focused. It's very much about, let me lift the heaviest weight I can. Let me run as fast as I can on the treadmill.
Yep.
People are usually got headphones in. They're usually not particularly connected. For me personally, yoga is really a connection to self. And as you said, we do that through the breath. And also, I think whichever kind of yoga you do, there's normally some focus on breath. Even if you're doing the faster vinyasa, they're normally trying to get you to kind of feel your breath, follow your breath versus. So I think the connection to breath is from my knowledge and understanding, probably links all of those different styles that you've described.
Yeah, definitely. And I did my yoga teacher training, and it was, although it covered a lot of styles, the main focus was vinyasa. And you had to, your what's it called? Qualification, certification, 60-minute practice you had to lead. Can't think of the word, exam, I don't know, end class. 60 minutes, and everything had to be inhale this, exhale that, inhale, hold, inhale, exhale. Everything was built around the movement of the breath.
Yes.
And it was, to show you understood the kind of how you move with the breath. It was maybe a little bit too much for my teaching style. I think it's nice to have those moments of silence where people can, connect to their breath in their own way. But it was a lot of the time in a quick vinyasa class as well.
Yeah.
Everything was built around that. And it helps you to move more efficiently as well.
Yeah.
Because often we end up holding our breath. You'll be holding a balancing posture and it's like, oh, and then we squeeze and then we wobble. But actually, if you breathe and actually if you add sound, just even a zzz, then you lightly engage your core. You stop holding your breath and you have better balance as well. So.
Which is obviously similar to using our voice as well. We never want to be holding our breath when we're singing or speaking. So there's always that nice continuous flow. I know there are certain breathing practices where you do sort of hold the breath in yoga. I can't think what it's called at the moment, where you kind of inhale, hold, exhale.
It's so funny because I did that in a class this morning, and I was talking about when you suspend the breath, you keep in glottis, the space between the vocal folds, open.
Yes.
And feeling the expansion without the constriction. But again, I don't actually know if there is a name for that practice of breathing within yoga. You do have box where you breathe, hold, exhale, hold.
Yes.
But I just say suspend the breath.
Suspend the breath, yes. Because I think that's something that I certainly see with other forms of exercise there. And I was talking about this with someone with weightlifting, particularly, where there's an encouragement to really like squeeze the glottis. So I go, which is not great for the voice. So I think, I think what we're saying really is the common thread, I think, is breath. And it really helps us to connect the postures. And I think coming onto the voice, then obviously the breath powers the voice. It's really important. Why do you think in your work and what you do, what do you think, why do you think it's so valuable to people, voice users, to sort of incorporate yoga into their practice?
It's hard to know where to start because I do this so much. I'm like, what's the most important?
Where do I start?
And I think there are actually so many parallels between yoga and the voice, but really it's, knowing that our voice is part of our body and it's part of an entire system as well. So it might be parallels between alignment. Yoga, we're working from the ground up. We're thinking about everything stacked on top of each other, whether we are just standing there or we're in Warrior 2. We're thinking about how everything's sitting. Where, of course, when we're speaking or singing, yes, we might not always be stood up straight. I don't want to ever say that. In line. We might be needing to move, use our arms. We want to have the freedom and the flexibility. So yoga's great to give us that freedom of movement. Again, one of the reasons I came to it was I was a classical singer that was stuck like this with a choral folder in front of them for so many years. And I just looked like this and I was too afraid to use my arms. Whereas I feel that yoga's been a massive thing to help me just free everything up. And have the flexibility. It also gives us more freedom in the pelvis and the rib cage, and those are so vital parts of how we physically make sound. So there is that physical aspect, and again, it doesn't have to be a power flow. It might just be stretching and breathing to find that release. And then the energy as well. We often, when we are speaking, like you're saying, it's kind of so much regulated by our mind, our voice, and we have to get up and speak or sing in front of people and the nerves kick in, and it's that balance between the nervous system. And yoga is fantastic to, get us into that more, I suppose, meditative state, but just to calm, let the parasympathetic nervous system take over and give us that sense of calm, which also gives us that sense of confidence, I think, as well. And it might be that finding that confidence isn't just through calming the nervous system. It might be that you're in that warrior posture and you feel this openness and this sense of broadness and you feel powerful. And that might be what gives you the strength and the confidence as well. So I think it's really thinking of it as kind of an embodied practice. There are so many other benefits, like I said, the core engagement. We're in a balancing posture. We can feel our breath a little bit more in, like the lower abdominals supporting the breath a bit more. Maybe you can't feel it so much standing up, but you're in a certain posture and you can connect to it a bit more. And then you can maybe translate that into your voice practice as well. And I think really it's knowing that, yes, it might be if you build yoga into your, I don't want to say daily, but even weekly routine, that you start to feel the effects more frequently. You start to feel a bit more calm, confident, in control of the breath, in control of your voice. Or you might just use a one-off exercise before a presentation, a performance, and that can help you as well. So I think there are, I could talk for hours on parallels and benefits, but really it's, I think there is that thing. When I was training, although I had wonderful training and I loved it, I would do it again, there wasn't really a physical focus at all. And I did just think of everything as like, how does everything feel in my mouth? What's my larynx doing? Because I trained classically as well before I did the, learn about how you can use your voice in different ways. Everything was kind of one setup. And I didn't really consider my body at all. And I think that's maybe why when I graduated, I didn't feel ready to go out into the world and be a performer, because I didn't feel connected at all. And actually, it's only been like the last, I forgot how old I was then. I was going to say 5, maybe 10 years, that I think I've got better as a performer, and I haven't increased my training or done more practice vocally. I think I've just become much more like embodied physically, felt more open, and therefore my voice, all my existing training is still there. My voice has just freed up so much. And I think that's just an amazing thing, really.
Well, it's interesting. So when you were talking, I was thinking also from my own perspective, obviously we've got like the throat chakra and they talk about the chakras in yoga. And it's one of the few practices, again, where you're really encouraged to open the chest and open, like, is it the fish pose where you lie on your back and you put your head back and you really open up through here? Because most of us spend our lives like this, like this, like this. Most of this is shut down. And as a speaker, as a singer, we want this kind of open. And yoga's brilliant. I think I often get, I'm not doing yoga in a kind of proper quote unquote way, but I will often get clients to kind of really start to open this bit up, because I think particularly if you're sitting at a desk all day, you're sitting in front of a computer, this throat area, chest area, the shoulders are hunched forward. So some of those postures, I think, for me, just opens things up in parts of the body which are absolutely critical for voice, in ways that we just wouldn't normally with probably any other form of exercise.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd never felt those effects until we had lockdown and I was teaching full-time online in front of my computer. And although I sit at the piano alongside company as well when I teach, just naturally was standing up and sitting down much more. And I kept saying, I'm on Zoom, I should really stand up when I teach. But there was this weird lethargy at the start of lockdown. And it was just, and then you'd finish teaching, you'd walk to your sofa over there and then just sit down. And I'd never been, that kind of person. And I really felt like the effects actually of it. And I think I came to see the connection even more of how actually when we do this and sit like this a lot and we get a bit slumped, how that does then, it does have such a knock-on effect. And yoga is amazing to have those forward bends, back bends, and that thing of throat chakra opening, it's definitely physical, but it helps you to feel so kind of present and open as well. Just, what's the word? Mentally open, I think.
Yes. Because I think there's a vulnerability to yoga as well. When you do like camel pose, again, when you're, I don't know whether anyone knows what these postures are, but anyway, but I think for me, that posture, I find that quite vulnerable because you're sort of really open. And again, I think as a general rule, as human beings, we're not open at the front. We tend to be slouched forward as a general rule. And so when we do postures that really open this, I think it can bring up a lot emotionally for people. You can feel quite exposed. But I do think the benefit of that as a speaker, as a singer, is you're more connected to your body, you're more connected to your voice. And I think you can then show up more unafraid to express yourself because you've started to kind of physically open this part of your body up. Whereas I think for most of us, we're used to collapsing in, particularly as a speaker. But the other thing I was going to mention as well, which just again came into mind, is I think yoga can also be useful to kind of counteract some of the, let me say, I don't know, maybe poor posture is not the right word, but for me, for example, when I'm singing on stage and I'm wearing heels, that can really tighten my hamstrings. I might get like a sore lower back. And obviously there's other things I need to do there. But I do find, again, yoga is brilliant for like that stretching of the lower back, stretching of the calves, the hamstrings, all of that kind of stuff. I find it like a really brilliant sort of compensatory practice when I've had like a night of singing, for example, or speaking.
Yeah, 100%. And you could move through, again, I'm going to mention something which people might not know what it is, but a sun salutation A.
Yeah.
It's a sequence that takes maybe a minute and a half max, and it's a full body. You've got every single thing in there. You've got standing extension, you've got forward fold, you've got hamstring stretch, plank core, you've got back bend, you've got a chance to breathe, you're flowing with the breath. Like, it has got everything in there. And that might scare someone. Might have heard plank and thought, I don't want to do that. Like, you can modify it, you can drop the knees, you can do it slowly. So just doing one sun salutation just can change entirely how you feel. And there are so many things physically. Like, I teach at a college in London, and I turned up on my first day. We had a whole staff meeting, so it was September, and the head of singing was like, oh, just a reminder, everyone female identifying has to wear heels in their lessons. And I was like, what? Why? I was a bit like, that's weird. And then I thought, well, that's such, if you're going to be wearing heels to your audition, your performance, you should get used to them, because I wear flat shoes all the time, and then I'll go for a gig and I'll wear heels for 2 hours and my entire alignment is shifted. So actually, if you're singing rock or pop, you want to wear big boots and stuff, but it's if you're going to be wearing those heels, you should practice and see how it affects your alignment, because funny things happen to us when we're speaking or singing, get nervous. I was in a chamber choir concert once, and it was one where most people were very good at sight reading, so you wouldn't have loads of rehearsals. If you missed the odd rehearsal, you'd catch up on your own. And I remember turning the page once and I was like, oh my gosh, am I sight reading in the performance? And I was suddenly panicked, and as I went to walk off like 20 minutes later, I'd locked my knees so badly, like I've struggled to walk because the panic had set in. And it had made me just lock my knees. And then as soon as you lock your knees, your pelvis tilts, shortens your hip flexors, you can't breathe efficiently. And it was like a horrible experience for me. And I've moved away from where we started. But just having that awareness of the body.
Yes.
And yoga, I mean, that's probably my most used word when I'm teaching, is awareness. How does that, what can you reflect on how that made you feel, because you're more aware of your body. And I think if you are in a situation where you're feeling a bit sticky, a bit stuck, you can start to notice it. If heels towards the end of the set, we're feeling a bit, keeping more a bounce in the knees, just noticing things. And then, knowing that if you might lean towards that, doing a little bit of movement, maybe yoga before you go on, and then after as well, to kind of reset, can be really useful.
Absolutely. And actually, I think when we are more connected to our body, and I've certainly found this, we're more connected to our voice as well, because a lot of the time people don't even realize, say, how much tension they're holding in their neck or their shoulders or their chest, which is obviously going to impact the voice. But when we do something like yoga, it really brings the energy inwards to us, and we start to, I think, build a real connection to our body, which can only ever, in my opinion, make us a better voice user, a better speaker, a better singer, because ultimately our body is not only, as we said, the instrument, but it's also the expression of that instrument. So we're both, the piano. I always say to people, you're the piano and the piano player as a singer or as a speaker.
Oh, I
So
love that. That's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I think some
Steal
people
that.
don't see themselves. You can steal it, that's fine. Because I think often we don't see ourselves as an instrument. We just, particularly I think speakers that I work with mainly, they're often very disconnected to their voice, because it's usually they've never done any voice training before. I think with most singers, in my experience, there is a sort of, perhaps it's a bit more accepted that if you want to be a good singer, you probably are going to have to do some kind of training at some point, because it's very hard to just become a great singer naturally without having any kind of sort of
Yeah.
input or feedback or training. But I think, you can go through life and never have any voice training as a speaker. And often that they'll only come to me when things are starting to go wrong, like there's a lot of tension or there's a lot of struggling with weakness in the voice or projection or whatever. So it's really, really interesting. So are there some things then that you could suggest that you could even demonstrate now? Because obviously it's going to be maybe a bit challenging for you to demonstrate like a downward dog.
Well, and we want it to be accessible anywhere as well.
Yes. So maybe for people who are very desk bound, and or I guess they could stand up, whatever you prefer, but maybe some things they could do where you don't need any real sort of knowledge of yoga, but some simple things they might be able to do.
Yeah, definitely. So first, let's think about neck, shoulders, jaw. So again, it's kind of taking something simple that you might already know. We'll just do a little neck tilt stretch,
Yes,
but how you can adjust it. So yeah, you just drop one ear to the shoulder. And again, you always work with what feels good, because with neck tension, you want to be very mindful. So you can take as many steps as you like. Using the opposite hand just to have a little bit of support. And again, you can start to just move the neck slightly from side to side. And then we've got all these options with our other hand. So we can already connect to our breath by doing a bit of massage down the jaw and the neck. So we can breathe in, and then on the exhale, a little bit of massage down the side of the jaw. Hard to do when you're speaking. Of course, keeping a bit of space between the teeth. And then you can take it to the neck. SCM, big muscles down the side of the neck. And again, doing it on the exhale, just feels this massive release. And then you can drop the chin to the chest as well. Get more down the back of the neck. And you can move to the shoulders. And it's just getting in there, really, with what you need. And then my other favourite modification for this one is to bend the elbow and bring it behind the back. And then thinking about that opening through the shoulder. And again, you can have a little bit of movement. If you drop the chin to the chest there, you feel this stretch all the way down the back of the neck, the shoulder, which normally feels great. And it doesn't have to be static. You can have a bit of movement as you go. And then if you're in a place where it allows, I always encourage, if you can, to just add a bit of humming. So as you're stretching, your exhale just becomes a hum, and you'll feel the vibrations under your hand as well, which instantly gives you that connection to the breath. To your voice. And you can slide around.
Mm.
And it kind of, yeah, it just encourages a little bit more release, and it brings your awareness to the place that you're massaging, trying to release. Same thing when the hand's behind the back as well. People think, oh, I shouldn't voice when I'm doing things with my neck. But actually, if it feels good for you,
Yes.
it's fine.
I do a lot more of that myself now as well, actually, just to encourage my neck to release, and humming, like I just turn my head gently from side to side and hum sometimes just to kind of release a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, I sing and hum all the time when I'm moving now, obviously doing yoga.
Yes.
Next one that is great is cat cow, but you can do it seated. So this is one in yoga that we'll often do tabletop, hands and knees on the floor. But of course, if you're at a desk, you don't want to just climb onto the floor and start doing your cat cows. So you can do it seated or standing, which is really nice. And again, we're just moving between a very small back bend and rounding into more of a forward bend. So if we bring the hands behind the head, and they're really just there to support, you can interlace. And already you just bring the elbows back, you'll feel this amazing opening across the chest. And you could just breathe here for a few moments, and you can use the thumbs as well, don't you see, to kind of help support down the back of the neck.
Yeah.
Can feel quite nice. I like to have a bit of massage with my thumbs there as well. And then we can start to flow between the two to get that sense of flow with the breath, even though we're sat down. So we can inhale, lift the chest, feel opening. You can look up if it feels good. And then on an exhale, we start to round the back. So you draw the chin towards the chest, elbows start to come together. And then you repeat. So we just inhale to open. And exhale to round, and you can round as far as feels good. It might be a small way. You could bring the elbows all the way down to the legs. Again, it's just making it work for you, and you can hold either of the postures if it feels like you want to get into that stretch a little bit more. And then of course you can always add sound to the exhale as well. So maybe just a s, so that you start to feel the muscles of exhalation a little bit more as you round. Or you could make it a hum or a zzz.
Yeah.
And it might change how long your movement lasts for as well, because often when we add the sound to the exhale, it controls the breath a bit more, and then you find you've got longer to move. So trying to keep the movement going as much as you can whilst you're keeping the sound going. So that's great because you're getting all this mobility in the spine, particularly the thoracic spine, which our rib cage is attached to. So the more flexibility we've got in the ribs, the more scope we've got for more efficient breathing. And you're having a flow, as I said, you're connecting to the breath, so it can feel really good. And then one more, which I think old people that sit a lot should do, hip opener.
Oh yeah.
Let me angle. So, just bringing like the left ankle onto the top of the right thigh. Figure 4 stretch, and then just encouraging the torso to stay long. You can use the left hand to just push the left knee down. Often, again, we just think about our upper body, releasing all tension. We're like, oh, I need to focus on my neck, my shoulders. However, as I said, hip flexors have all these connections with diaphragm, spine, also our central nervous system as well. So often people hold a lot of emotional tension in their hips, and finding a bit of release can not only help us to breathe a little bit better, but it can help to find a bit more of a sense of calm, kick in the parasympathetic nervous system, which we want. And then also it helps our pelvic alignment, which of course, as I said before, allows us to breathe more efficiently and then voice more efficiently as well. And again, you can have a little bit of movement there. I think often we don't need that static stretch because we want to have a focus on release and the breath. So it's fine to kind of have a little bit of rocking, bit of movement. I sit like this at the piano, actually, as I was
Do you?
finding I was getting really stuck. Yeah, I can't use the pedal, but if I'm just doing exercises, I often sit like this because
Oh,
unfortunately through lockdown, I've been getting a lot more like twinges
oh.
in like back of my legs and stuff just from sitting so much more because I'd never used to.
Yes, it's so
So this is
interesting.
now one of my go-to stretches, which is the same stretch as like pigeon pose.
Yes.
It works the same muscles, but you can just do it sitting down. You can do it on the tube as well, and you will notice a difference. You can do well as long as you're not one of those people that's getting in the way of everyone
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
else. As long as you've got the space.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we often don't consider having a hip opener, but
No.
honestly, if you then did it and stood up, I think you'll feel quite a difference actually. And you only need to do it for, minute on each side. Could do it less, could do it for longer. Again, listening to your body.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's kind of seeing what works for you. And I think
Yes.
people often feel a bit self conscious, but how many times do we see people do a bit of a stretch at their desks? Like, why not make your stretch become this instead?
Absolutely. I like that. And actually, I read, and I think it maybe it's more Feldenkrais, if that's how you pronounce it. One of the books I've got on that. There is a link between the hips and the jaw, and when we have tight hips, we often have tight jaw, and obviously jaw important for voice. So I don't know how true that is, but that's certainly something I've read, that there's a jaw hip connection to.
Yeah, I actually wrote a little blog post on that for another organisation I do classes for because I'd
Oh,
been reading about it and they were looking for ideas and I was like, oh, I'll write a short blog on this. So yeah, it's one of those things that there are a few, it's been widely known in like Chinese medicine for thousands of years that they've said there's this connection, but there are a few more research papers recently that have shown about like different angles of the jaw. And you have to be stood up to do this, but if you stand up and you chatter your teeth and you shift your pelvis, you'll feel that your teeth chattering shifts with the movement
ah,
of your pelvis and your hips. So there definitely is a connection. How big or small, I don't know enough,
yeah.
but if you think about it, your jaw sits across this midline, as do your hips. So as soon as you go like this, there's got to be some
Mm,
compensation and things.
yeah.
But I'd like to learn more about that as well.
Yes. Well, so I think, well, anyway, as you say, regardless whether there's a jaw connection or not, it
Yeah.
just feels amazing to release the hips.
Oh, it does. And, it is that thing of I'd always kind of known and felt and witnessed people having that emotional connection with their hips. And there is a lot about,
Mm,
the hip chakra as well.
yeah.
But yeah, and then I read a research paper about, yeah, the muscle being connected to your nervous system. So if you're often, yeah, if your hip flexor, that particular muscle is tight, it can mean you're more likely to go into that fight or flight mode.
Yes.
So
And I think
interesting.
when we're stressed or we're anxious, often we can tighten through our hips and our glutes. And I mean, certainly for me, I
100%,
definitely
yeah.
noticed that link. So, and again, I think jaw is often linked to stress and anxiety as well. When we're
Yeah.
feeling very stressed, we tend. I mean, I'm like the queen of all of this. I will have to wear a mouth guard
Yeah.
at night because I grind my teeth. And so for me, I know that when I'm anxious or stressed, my jaw clenches, my hips get tight. So I know, at least in my own body, I definitely feel there's a link.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course there's a whole like pressure system in the body as well. So as soon as you tense your throat, your abdominals often engage. And
Yeah.
there's, that different diaphragms in the body as well and how they're
Yes.
kind of regulating and pelvis, larynx and stuff. So again, I don't know enough about it, but I've touched the surface where I'm like, that's fascinating. I'd like to
Yes.
learn more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Well, this. I'm just thinking now. This we could open this up into a whole other conversation because
I
I mean,
know.
the bones of the feet. I know as well. There's a link between the feet and the diaphragm. Anyway, it's a whole other
Yeah.
conversation.
And fascia, everything's connected through fascia as well. So
And that's what I say to people all the time. Your voice isn't the larynx. I mean, it is the voice box is the larynx, but everything is connected to the voice in some shape or form, either directly or indirectly. So whether it's through the hips and the jaw, or the feet and the fascia, whether it's the sternum and the neck, I mean, it's just everything. Which is why, coming back to this whole topic, that's why yoga is so good. It's a full body, full mind, full experience. So for those people so you have some really great videos on YouTube actually, where you do like little practices and stuff for people. So what's the best way for people to find out more about you? I can't speak.
So YouTube, I'm there, Vox Yoga, and I started that just to give people a taste in lockdown, and it took off, which is great. My website as well, voxyoga.co.uk, has got a little bit more kind of information about how it could help voice users, help you. And then socials, Vox Yoga with Rosie. To kind of connect, and I like to share how this can help people.
Absolutely. And you do run, I don't know if you're still doing them, are you still doing your online yoga classes?
Yeah, I was doing them monthly, but I found as we all got back to, through lockdown, as everyone got back to real world stuff, more people would catch the recordings instead of live. So I'm kind of making the transition. I'm in the process of doing kind of like a mini downloadable course as well. So I'm hoping I'll have that out in September. So it's kind of practices that you can come back to, and longer ones than YouTube, so you can get immersed into that kind of the feel of it and the energetic state a little bit more as well. And then I'm sure I'll still do a few live ones, but I can't say when the next one is.
No, that's okay. And so they're not just for singers, your yoga classes. You could come along as a speaker.
A lot of it is kind of just organic vocalizing and seeing how the voice responds to the movement. So it might be that I'll say, explore your upper range, and a speaker might think, what? But if you try it, it's going to help to free up other parts of your voice. And actually, I say people come with an idea of 4 lines of a song you could sing, or 4 lines of text as well, because then we can, sing or speak in a posture, or just doing some flow, breath work, whatever it is, and then coming to the voice afterwards and see how it feels. So it's definitely applicable across the board to singers and speakers.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to be adopting some of those little, particularly the seated cat-cow, because I haven't done that one.
I love it.
Yeah, I do love that one. It does feel particularly, as I say, the hunched over the computer thing. It just
doing
opens
it now.
Up.
There we go.
Yeah. But thank you so much. And
thanks for having me.
Lovely to connect. And so I will put, for anyone watching the replay of this, I will put obviously Rosie's links below if you're interested in finding out more about her yoga. And don't be shy. I'm sure she's not going to make you sing a song.
No, but you never know. But no.
You might be a secret singer and not realise it yet.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.